they really want to explore this idea of an economic union, because Canada, but you think about 40 million people, size of California, unlimited resources, unlimited power, unlimited gas, unlimited water, unlimited lumber, unlimited everything. Yeah. And they're not stupid. They're thinking, wait a second, what if we had free trade east, west, north, south? And that we put all our resources in, instead of squabbling on our own border between Canada and the United States, and put all that money up into protecting ourselves against the Chinese and the Russians up north. That all makes sense to Canadians.
So that was Kevin O'Leary on Fox Business earlier this morning. So the Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is here. There are way too many barriers for Canada to join the United States in terms of statehood. But why do you think the idea of statehood is resonating with Canadians?
I think it's resonating with Americans more than Canadians, frankly. I think there's a number of Canadians who are really concerned that what started off as a joke seems to keep on coming back and back and back. What Canadians really want is a preservation of the incredible trading and defense partnership that we've had with the Americans since our founding. We are the largest trading partner with the United States. We buy more goods from the United States than anyone else. Mexico is second. We buy more goods, in fact, than Germany, Italy, France, the UK, and Vietnam combined. So we have a very strong relationship. What we're worried about here is a 25% tariff that could potentially disrupt that cross-border trade flow. So I think there are some people putting forward ideas about how that might be resolved. I personally think the way it would be to resolve is to have no tariffs, as we've had in the past, and get back to talking about some of the other trade irritants that are causing the new incoming president to have concerns about Canada as a partner.
Well, and you and I have talked before about the border between the U.S. and Canada. There's now a $1.3 billion security proposal on the Canadian side. Last Friday, the Canadian foreign minister and the finance minister met with President-elect Trump, as well as the border czar. Out of that meeting, one official saying that President-elect is more focused, away from little of the border, but to the trade deficit that the U.S. has Canada. What do you make of all that?
Well, if you look back a few years in sort of around 2015, Canada actually had the trade deficit with the U.S. I think that's a demonstration of how balanced our trade is sometimes we have a deficit and sometimes you do. And often it's really related to commodity prices. As we know, in the last 10 years, commodity prices have gone up, and that pretty well explains most of that difference. But that's also beneficial to Americans. I mean, America is looking for where they're going to get critical minerals. How are they going to make sure that they have enough oil and gas to keep gas prices low? Where are they going to be able to get food product to process and then ship around the world, including back to us? And so I would say that that if we can take the issue of commodity prices out of the mix, we actually have what it is that the U.S. president is looking for, is a fair and balanced trade relationship. I think that personally that the president has good reason to turn his sights to other jurisdictions that that have a massive trade deficit, are not buying the equivalent amount of American goods. And that seems to me to be where his issue lies. I think Canada will continue to be a really great trading partner with the United States, and that balanced trade is what other countries should be aspiring to.
Yeah, and to your point, Canada's ambassador to Washington says that the trade deficit last year was $75 billion, but a third of that was energy exports, where the U.S., and that's where the deficit looks bad, is when oil prices remain high. Canada has, one of the U.S.'s closest allies. The prime minister, though, is facing an election in 2025. Is all of this hurting his re-election chances?
Most definitely. I mean, I think you're beginning to see even his own party is calling for an election, or for him to resign. I've been calling for an election for some time. We are now, with the United States and the inauguration on January 20th, facing a president who has a 4-year mandate. We certainly need to have a leader here who has an equal mandate, a 4-year mandate, so that these negotiations can continue, and there's the credibility at the table. So I think there does need to be an election sooner rather than later, and I hope that we don't end up seeing really massive tariffs and a beginning of a trade war in the meantime. I think that would be terrible for both Canadian consumers and American consumers. Because to your point about energy, part of the benefit you get from having Canadian energy is if we had a 25% tariff, it would cost $1 a gallon more. And I don't think American consumers want that.
We're running out of time. I want to get this in 15 seconds. You're coming to the inauguration of President-elect Trump. Why is it important for you to be here for that?
because of all of the trading partners, and we have provinces instead of states. The Alberta has a $188 billion cross-border trade relationship with the United States. I want to talk to as many members of the incoming administration as I can to make sure that that trading partnership stays strong, and know that we're here as a friend and ally. We're here to help.
And warm things up. I appreciate it. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, thanks for coming on.